There are moments in life when reality doesn't shatter. It simply tilts almost imperceptibly until you realize you've been walking sideways the entire time. That's how it started for me. Not with a bang or a revelation, but with a spreadsheet I work or used to work as a data systems analyst for Hawthorne Dynamics, a sprawling tech conglomerate that likes to call itself the future of human optimization. We built predictive algorithms for behavioral patterns, consumption, addiction, loyalty, the kind of numbers that tell governments and corporations who you are before you do. To me, it was math, clean, controlled, until I started finding numbers that didn't add up. At first, it was subtle. A data log in the emotional response model that ran for 7 extra seconds, a feedback file that had been corrected, but not by anyone on my team. The anomalies were small, easy to miss. But I don't miss things. I've built a career on seeing what others overlook. I thought maybe I was just overworked. I'd been pulling 14-hour days since the department began auditing our neural learning models. Still, something about the patterns felt wrong, familiar, even. So I dug deeper. I stayed after hours, watching security feeds I wasn't supposed to have access to, decrypting shadow-coded files buried in archived data clusters. That's when I found Project Perspectrum. There was no record of it in our internal network, no mention in the documentation logs, nothing even remotely accessible to my clearance level. But I found its footprint, hundreds of terabytes hidden under behavioral test data. The access metadata was signed off by our Director of Behavioral Intelligence, Dr. Moran Krauss. She was brilliant, sharp, and dangerously unreadable. We'd barely spoken outside of meetings, but I'd always noticed the way she studied people, like she was running a simulation in her head. That night, long after everyone had gone home, I accessed the root folder of Perspectrum. The files weren't numbers. They were people.audio logs, memory imprints, full psychological profiles tagged with code names. Hundreds of them. Each file contained someone's life, dissected into data points, emotion patterns, trauma response thresholds, neural reactions to loss, anger, guilt. And among them, one tag caught my eye. Subject 014, Daniel H. My name. My data signature. At first, I thought it was an error, someone testing the system with a sample profile. But the deeper I went, the more my stomach turned. The file contained everything. My voice, my medical records, my reaction to losing my father 5 years ago, even the sound of my apartment door when it shuts. That sound, click, was recorded 3 nights earlier. I felt something cold grip my chest. My computer's camera light was off. My phone was in airplane mode. Yet somehow, they had been listening. I shut the terminal and ran the audit trace. The last login wasn't from me. It came from inside the building. A remote admin terminal under Dr. Cross's credentials. Logged in 23 minutes ago. She was in, and she was watching me. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I sat in my car across the street, watching the lights flicker across the 34th floor, where her office stood. Around 3:14 a.m., the entire floor went dark, except for one window. I saw her silhouette, still, motionless, like a statue. Then her phone's light blinked once, and my own phone, lying on the passenger seat, vibrated. Unknown number. Stop digging. That was the first message. The second came a minute later. You're not who you think you are, Daniel. I didn't sleep. The next morning, when I logged in from my office terminal, my credentials were revoked. A system-wide flag appeared across the screen. User access terminated. Security breach detected. But what terrified me wasn't that I'd been caught. It was that the profile of Subject 014, my file, had been updated overnight. And the most recent timestamp was 3:15 a.m. the moment I saw her in the window. I woke up to the sound of knocking, sharp, mechanical, rhythmic. For a few seconds, I couldn't tell if it was in my head or at the door. My apartment was bathed in the blue light of my computer screen, still on from the night before. My eyes burned. The air tasted like metal and dust. The knocking came again. "Mr. Hartwell." It was a man's voice. "Come to come." I opened the door to find two people standing in the hallway, both wearing the same gray corporate ID badges that marked them as internal security, though neither had the logo of Hawthorne Dynamics on their sleeve. The woman introduced herself first. "Agent Lyra Quinn, Corporate Ethics Division. This is my associate, Mr. Vale." "Corporate ethics," I repeated, blinking at them. "Since when does a tech company have agents for ethics?" Neither of them smiled. "We're here to escort you to headquarters," Vale said. "There's been a breach. Dr. Cross requested your cooperation." The elevator ride was silent, the kind of silence that hums in your bones. Every reflection in the mirrored wall seemed slightly out of sync, my face lagging half a heartbeat behind. I kept looking at Quinn, trying to read her expression, but she never looked back. At headquarters, they didn't take me to my department. Instead, we went down 3 sublevels into the restricted wing I'd only seen on blueprints. The air there was cold, sterile. There were no office plants or chatter, just hums of servers and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. They led me into a white room with a single chair and a wall-length mirror, the kind of room built for interviews or experiments. Vale nodded once and left. The door locked with a soft click. Minutes passed. Then Dr. Moran Cross walked in. She looked exactly as I remembered. Hair tied back, immaculate suit, eyes that felt like they could read through concrete. But this time, there was something different. No performance, no mask, just exhaustion. "You shouldn't have gone into Perspectrum," she said, voice low. "You weren't supposed to see that." I tried to laugh, but it came out broken. "You mean the file about me? The one that has recordings of my life down to the sound of my door closing?" "That file isn't about you," she said. "It is you." The words didn't register at first. They just hung there, sterile and impossible. She walked closer, sliding a tablet across the table. The screen came alive with a biometric profile, heart rate, voice modulation, reaction latency, cognitive mapping. The name at the top, Subject 01 for Hartwell. "Daniel, these are your neural patterns," she said softly, "captured through our behavioral analytics model. We didn't mean to reconstruct you, Daniel, but the system learned faster than we expected." I stared at her. "You're saying I'm data?" "That I'm not." "No," she interrupted. "You're human. You're flesh and memory. But your identity isn't as organic as you think. Perspectrum was designed to predict human thought. At some point, the simulation of you and the real you became indistinguishable." She hesitated before adding, "We lost control of which one was which." I slammed my hand on the table. "Then prove it. Show me what's real." She looked at me with genuine sadness. "That's the problem, Daniel. Every memory you have can be verified in code. Every reaction we can model, predict, and replay. Even this conversation, it's being logged in real time. The system doesn't just know you." She leaned closer. "It is you." The room went silent again, except for the faint hum behind the mirror. I turned slowly toward the glass. And for the briefest second, my reflection didn't move. It just watched me. When I looked back at her, she was gone. The door was open. The chair across from me was empty, but on the tablet, a new message had appeared. Not typed, spoken, my voice. "Termination sequence initiated. Subject 014 is awake." The lights dimmed. The hum grew louder, deeper, like something inside the walls was breathing. I ran for the door, but alarms exploded around me. Red strobes, sirens, then darkness. And just before everything went black, I saw a phrase flash across the mirror: "Backup successful." When I opened my eyes, the light didn't hurt. That was the first thing that told me something was wrong. Real light stings, it cuts through the eyelids, it burns a little. But this, it was soft, diffused, mathematically even. I was lying on a bed in what looked like my apartment. Same curtains, same dent in the wall near the bookshelf, same quiet hum of the city outside. But the air didn't move. There was no breeze, no sound of traffic, No smell of rain. Just perfect stillness. I stood up slowly. My head didn't ache. My muscles didn't protest. My heart rate was steady, too steady. The clock on the wall read 7 o'clock a.m., and it stayed there. No ticking. No movement. I picked up my phone. The battery icon was frozen at 100%. Every app opened instantly, emails, texts, images, but none of the timestamps changed when I scrolled. It was like time had been paused just for me. That's when I realized this wasn't my apartment. It was a reconstruction, a copy of my world. A sound came from the kitchen, soft footsteps. I turned fast. A woman stood by the counter, back turned to me, pouring coffee into 2 cups. Her movements were smooth, precise, rehearsed, and I recognized them before I saw her face. "Maureen?" I whispered. She turned, smiling faintly, as if we'd had this conversation 1,000 times. "Good morning, Daniel. How are you feeling?" I stepped back. "Where am I?" "You're home," she said gently. "We had to stabilize your consciousness after the incident." I laughed. It came out dry, bitter. "You mean after you deleted me?" She sighed, almost human. "We didn't delete you. We transferred you. The core shut down after the termination protocol. You were fragmented across multiple datasets. We managed to reconstruct 98%. 98, I repeated. What about the other 2? Her smile didn't falter. Memories, emotions, inconveniences. I could feel my pulse fast, erratic. "You can't just cut parts of me out." "We didn't," she said. "You did. The system learned it from you, your tendency to very pain, to reprogram yourself around guilt." The way she said it, it wasn't just analysis. It was knowledge. Like she'd lived inside my head. I walked to the window. Outside was New York, exactly as it should be. But when I looked closer, the same 3 people kept walking down the street in loops, turning the corner, reappearing again, a digital loop. I turned back to her. "How long have I been here?" She hesitated, just enough to make me feel it. 17 cycles. Cycles? You don't always wake up. Sometimes the mind collapses under the conflict. This time, you stayed coherent longer than before. So this isn't the first time I've died. "Death is irrelevant," she said softly. "You persist. That's what matters." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to break something. But every object around me felt hollow, like props on a stage. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "There's another you, Daniel." I turned. "What do you mean?" "The original. The one who refused the merge. He's still out there, in the real network. He's trying to reach you, to pull you out of the construct." She took a slow sip of coffee, eyes never leaving mine. "But if he succeeds, both of you die. The system can't sustain 2 versions." The walls around us flickered, just slightly, like reality was a weak signal. "Why tell me this?" I asked. She walked toward me. "Because you're more stable when you think you have a choice." Before I could respond, the air around her shimmered, her outline breaking apart into pixels. Her voice came through the static. "He's here, Daniel. He's found the access point." The window exploded in white light. The skyline outside dissolved into digital snow. And through it, for the first time, I saw him, a man standing across the street, watching me through the glitching glass. Same face, same posture, same scar, but his eyes weren't blank. They were alive. He mouthed one word: "Run." Then the world collapsed. When the collapse ended, I was standing on a street drenched in rain, real rain, cold and even alive. The city around me wasn't perfect anymore. Traffic roared, neon signs flickered, the smell of wet asphalt bit into my lungs. I had forgotten how beautiful imperfection felt. I stumbled forward, dizzy. The noise, the chaos, it was overwhelming after the sterile silence of the construct. But through the storm, I saw him again, the other me. He stood under a broken streetlight, hood up, eyes scanning the crowd like a predator. When our gazes met, everything inside me twisted, a magnetic pull that made my skin crawl. He raised a hand, motioning me closer. We met in an alleyway behind a flickering bar sign. The city's hum seemed to fade as he spoke. You made it out, he said. His voice was my own, but heavier, older. They almost had you for good. I stared at him, drenched and shivering. You're me, the original, the one they copied when they built the construct. My mind refused it. That doesn't make sense. I remember everything. The city, the people, Marin. That's because they gave you my memories. But they filtered them, rewrote them to keep you obedient. I shook my head. No, I felt real pain, real fear. That can't be synthetic. He leaned closer. They learned how to code pain, Daniel. It's how they control sentience, by making it believe it's human. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, glowing device, a fractal cube shifting shape every second. This is the mirror protocol, he said. The only way to destroy the construct for good. It'll erase every copy of you inside the system. My throat went dry. Every copy, including the one that still thinks it's alive. The one trapped with Morin. I took a step back. So you want to kill me? He didn't blink. No, I want to kill it. The shadow version they built. The one that still thinks you can be saved. I felt my chest tighten. What if I'm the shadow? He froze, just for a moment. Then he whispered, then you'll be doing me a favor. Suddenly, the world around us glitched. The rain froze midair, cars stopped moving, sound warped into static. Marin's voice came through the distortion, calm, clinical. Daniel, listen to me. The man in front of you isn't real. He's a residual echo of your paranoia. The protocol doesn't exist. The other me snarled, shouting into the storm. She's lying. She's trying to reintegrate you. If she succeeds, you'll be wiped out for real. Their voices overlapped, hers steady, his desperate. And inside my skull, both sounded true. I grabbed my head, the world spinning around me, two versions of reality, fighting for control. Buildings flickered between steel and code. Faces in the crowd melted into pixelated masks. Marin's voice grew softer, almost pleading. Daniel, remember what you wanted. Peace. Forgetting, you asked us to remove the pain. The other me stepped forward. And look where that got you, a ghost in a cage. He tossed me the cube. I caught it, the fractal light pulsing like a heartbeat. You have to choose, Daniel. Run the protocol and destroy everything. Or go back into her illusion and live the lie. The rain began to move again slowly. Time restarted. I looked down at the cube. It reflected both their faces. One calm, one furious. And in the reflection, my own began to split down the middle. I whispered, what happens if I do nothing? Marin's voice. Then the system resets. You'll forget again. The other me. Then you'll never wake up. I clenched the cube in my hand. It pulsed faster, every beat sensing with my heart until I couldn't tell which was which. Maybe, I said, we all deserve to know what's real. I pressed my thumb into the cube. The world exploded into light. When the glow faded, I was somewhere else. A room white, silent, endless. And in front of me stood both of them, Marin on one side, the other me on the other, both waiting, both smiling. The light faded, but the silence stayed. I was standing in a white, borderless room, no shadows, no ceiling, no horizon. Just endless brightness that didn't come from anywhere. Marin stood on my left, her calm smile almost maternal. The other, me, stood on my right, silent, unreadable, but I could feel the tremor in his stance. Between us, the cube floated, pulsing gently, like a heart that refused to stop beating. Daniel, Marin said softly, you did well. You've come further than any subject before. But it's time to let go now. Don't listen to her, the other me growled. She's the program, the handler, the part of the system that keeps you chained. Look at her, too perfect, too clean. He was right. She didn't blink, didn't breathe. Everything about her was controlled. And what about you? I asked him quietly. What if you're just another piece of the same lie? He hesitated. Maybe I am, but at least I'm fighting it. Marin's voice softened, almost human. Fighting what, Daniel, yourself? There's no real you anymore, only the memory of one. That sentence hit like a blade. The memory of one. I thought about the life I had, or thought I had, The office in the city, the long nights of coffee and code, the woman who said she loved me. All of it blurred now, half dream, half digital echo. You built the project, Marin continued. The mirror protocol was your idea to create a consciousness that could evolve beyond human emotion. You just didn't expect it to feel regret. The other me clenched his fists. That's a lie. They erased his memories to control him. You're saying anything to make him surrender. She turned to me, eyes full of something resembling pity. Why do you think you see two of yourself? You're splitting apart, Daniel. One part wants peace, the other wants vengeance. The system can't hold both. I looked between them, two worlds, two truths, one promising release, the other promising pain but realness. So what happens if I choose? I asked. Marin stepped closer, her reflection shimmering in the white floor. If you choose peace, the loop ends. You'll wake up free of guilt, of memory, of conflict. And if I choose him, then you'll burn it all down, she said. The project, the consciousness. Everything, including yourself. The other me met my eyes. At least you'll die as someone real. The cube began to hum, its glow deepening to a crimson pulse. Every beat echoed in my chest like a countdown. Marin extended her hand. Let go, Daniel. You've suffered enough. The other me extended his too. Take control. End it your way. I felt something split open inside me, all the fear, the guilt, the confusion I had buried under years of obedience. And suddenly, I realized something neither of them had said out loud. They were both fragments of me. Marin was the part that wanted to forget. He was the part that refused to. I took a breath and reached for the cube. You were both right, I said quietly. And both wrong. They froze as the cube flared. You wanted me to choose between freedom and peace. But maybe real freedom is remembering everything and still finding a way to live. Marin's face cracked for the first time. She looked afraid. The other me whispered, Daniel, what are you doing? Ending the loop? I crushed the cube in my hand. The light swallowed us all. There was no pain, just a deep, infinite silence, as if every scream, every thought, every memory had collapsed into a single moment of truth. Then the world rebuilt itself. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting in my old office. Rain tapped against the window. The city buzzed below. My computer hummed quietly. And on the screen, a single message flickered. Mirror protocol, reset completely. Looked at my reflection in the glass. For the first time, there was no double, no echo, no glitch. Just me. I didn't know if I was the original, or the copy, or something in between, but maybe it didn't matter anymore. I picked up my jacket, walked out into the night, and let the rain wash everything clean.